This video is presented by the EA Creator Network. Hello, today I am making a Halloween themed fairy lot, which is all about nectar making. And so you will see one of the buildings is a place for a sim to live, another one is sort of like a store where you could go in and buy nectar. There's also a basement where you could age nectar and also make it. And then there's another building towards the back of the lot that is a place where you could sit down and eat and drink different nectars. I don't know how many times I said a nectar in that introduction to this lot. I didn't even know what to call this lot because I really was unsure. But this is part of a Simmers collab. It is called the Pixie Hollow collab, and it is hosted by Sims 4, Tell a Story, and Witching Mermaid. And we were asked to pick a different talent based on like Pixie Hollow, which I'm not really too familiar with, but I really love fairies and I love building lots like this. So I was happy to join, and they gave a whole list of different sorts of skills in The Sims that we could pick. And so I figured that I hadn't really made anything with nectar making in a while, and so I was like, I could do that. That sounds really cute, and I could make it almost like a fall village type thing. And so I set the season to fall because I thought it would be really nice. And it is the end of October, and I haven't really posted any videos or builds that is set in autumn yet. And normally I'm doing this in August, but I like pushed it off because I was like, okay, I don't want to start too soon, or I get tired of doing the same sort of thing all fall. And now it is almost Halloween, and this is my first video that is actually in fall. And at one point in the video, you'll see that it goes back to like green trees because I had forgotten about that when I took a little bit of a break. And then so it's only green for like maybe like a minute in the video. It wasn't that long because I realized something was kind of off. And I was like, oh yeah, I need to just go into live mode and do it that way. And that is why I had like a family on this lot when usually I just like evict the family and build on it. So I was like, okay, see, this is all making sense to me now. And you'll see that I started this build by just building different shaped shells because I really didn't know what I wanted the landscape to look like yet. I picked out different trees where I liked the color of them. It's kind of like time consuming to look through the live edit trees and stuff to see which ones have pretty fall colors and which ones I think look nice together. And so I just didn't record that, and I just went through and I picked each of them out. And so this is the blend of trees that I'm going with. I do add in a little bit more here and there because I needed some more pops of yellow, which you'll see after. But I really loved the shape of the first shell that I made with the tower. And I was like, wow, I can't believe this came like together so quickly. And I was like, wow, because I did not expect it to be that simple because I was really just playing around with shapes to see what kind of look I wanted to go for. And then I realized I was like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I want to go for. So I was sure that I was staying on the like back right one. And then I was like, okay, then now I want them to have different shapes that don't look very similar to each other. And then it turned into this. So they're all very different sizes as well. And I mostly kept the same roof peak shapes because that was what made it seem very cohesive and like they belong in the same lot, but just very different so that they didn't seem like I was just copy and pasting them. And I could tell you what each of them is going to be just so it's easier for you to know. And you would have seen some of the interiors at the start of the video, but the build on the left, which is kind of like maybe that is the biggest one actually. The tower one looks the biggest, but I think the one on the left might be larger than that one. And the one on the left ends up being the house. It is only one bedroom because I couldn't fit anything else into that home. The very tiny one at the front of the lot is sort of like the store where you could walk in and purchase nectar, but I don't think it's functional. I didn't really put any of the like surfaces that you can sell on, but I'm sure you could probably make it functional if you wanted to. That place also has the nectar making machine and a basement to age the nectar. And then the building all the way in the back is kind of like a restaurant, but there is no kitchen or anything. It is just buffet tables and then tables and chairs and a little bar in there. I realized that this lot could be really useful for weddings. I didn't put a wedding arch anywhere though. I think I'm going to go back and try and find a spot where I think a wedding arch could be cute because it would be really nice for me to place this lot down and also use it in my own Sims gameplay. I've been having all of my Sims get married at the Star Song Lounge because I mean that's the lot I built for the expansion pack, and so I keep like having them get married there. But it could be a nice change of scenery to have like my next sim that gets married like somewhere else, and this one actually has all of like the wedding sort of stuff, like the buffet tables are there too. I'm sure that I can fit a wedding arch somewhere in here. And since it's pretty early in the video still, I do want to say that I was putting the Enchanted by Nature ivy framing the doorways in a lot of this build, and you'll see it throughout. And I didn't realize that that's not functional. You can't walk through doorways that have the ivy pieces I was using for it. And so when I was trying to take the little intro video, I had to change some things around, which I don't show in this. So the actual build itself is going to be slightly different. You'll see in the screenshots later on, which was unfortunate, but it's okay. I played around with the different Enchanted by Nature ivy pieces, and I did something that would feel similar to it. But I really thought that your Sims could just walk through archways and doorways and stuff with the hanging ivy on it, but I guess I was wrong. It's not a huge deal. It was a very quick change, and I just had to look around and make sure that I moved it over on doorways so it wasn't over the doorways. And if I really wanted something framing that, I just found some different pieces that would fit instead. And now you can see that I have the pathways complete. I did start with a very like harsh orange dirt path, and then I took a break, and you could see I took a break because the leaves of the trees are green. And so this is me doing it in like the game, like the map at like build mode instead of in the actual gameplay mode. And so I went back in and I put some stone down over the orange pathway, and then I put a different brown dirt over it. And I actually really like how it turned out. It makes it seem like there's rocks lining the pathway, but in a very like subtle and natural way, which I really like. And so I think I'm going to be doing that sort of thing from now on when I feel like it's right to do so. And I was happy that I didn't have to erase the dirt path because I actually really love how this one flows, and I didn't want to have to remap it out. Another thing that you won't see in the actual video is me lining a lot of the pathways with different decorations. I think I show some of it, but I just like I couldn't bring myself to sit there and record it because I knew it was going to be a very long and tedious process of me putting pumpkins and candles down. And I was inspired by Palia because I had just gotten back into Palia for Halloween because I love the Halloween items, and I started a whole Halloween plot last year. I never was able to finish because I ran out of money and I couldn't buy any more pumpkins and floating candles. But the floating candles is what inspired me, and so I raised up a whole bunch of candles using tool mod of like various heights and to make them look like they were floating. And then I also sized down so many rainbow fireflies from the outdoor retreat game pack, and I put those around there. So that's why it's a whole tedious process, and I didn't show me like doing all those decorations. This is a huge lot too, and I knew that, and this is also why I didn't end up posting a base game and life and death build video yet, and I still haven't even like done that. But I didn't expect this build to take me such a long time. And it's like cuz the houses or the buildings itself are very small. The interior took me almost like no time at all, but this is a huge lot. I don't remember the actual size of this lot. It could be a 64 by 64. I've never built on this lot in innisgreen yet though. And so I was like, wow, this will be the perfect place for me to do it. And it'll give me enough room to create that fall village that I wanted to make this year. And so I was able to get the fairy collab build done as well as do a little fall village, which I kept seeing people doing on Instagram and stuff. And I really wanted to do one. And I mean, it is technically still going to be November, so I have plenty of time to do some more fall builds. But I felt like I wanted to do it during October too. And this way I was able to put a lot of pumpkins and go with sort of a Halloween theme, especially because this is being uploaded on Halloween. I think if I finish this voiceover in time for it. I need to also decide what lot type this is going to be uploaded as, because I could just upload it as a residential, but I have the whole other idea of like the nectar areas in here, so maybe I could do a small business lot for this one. I think that's what makes the most sense. But I feel like if I'm putting it down in my gameplay save, I might make it a different lot type, but I really don't know. So I'm just going to upload it as a small business lot. I think that's going to be the easiest one and will make the most sense for like two of the buildings that are actually on this lot. And I know it'll probably work with the getaway features and adventure awaits. I just haven't looked that much into the features that came with that expansion pack. So I'm not going to set it up that way because I'm just not too familiar with it. And I just can't be bothered to try and figure it out. Because the first time I went through it, I was a little bit overwhelmed with how many options there were. And so I was like, I'll do this at a later time. And I think I'll like actually focus on it when I finish my summer camp build, which also took a slight pause because I was working on Halloween stuff. And for about a week straight, all I was doing was working on my gameplay save and going back and forth between my now I have like 3 households that I'm split between, and I was having a lot of fun doing it, and I had to like pull myself away from it because like it's Halloween and a lot of other games have Halloween events going on that I want to get items for. And so I was just like trying to not focus on my Sims families, I guess like last weekend, and really try and grind Palia to get more of the Halloween items in there, which is good that I did that because that is what really inspired this lot. And back here, I'm doing kind of like fake grapevines to make it seem like they grow the ingredients for the nectar that is sold and made here. There is also some farming plots, so you actually can technically grow whatever plants you want to use for that, which is why I was like, I really like this a lot, and I would love to try and incorporate it in my gameplay save file because I have a sim who is retired and she makes nectar and stuff, but I did just build a restaurant for them to make it seem like they own a restaurant and like pretend like they serve the wine there, and that like the husband really likes cooking, so it would be kind of like he cooks and she like makes the nectar that they sell there. And that's going to be a speed build soon. I don't know when. I think I finished the build for it today, but I don't know if I'm gonna go back in and add anything else to it yet. Because this lot would have been nice for my sort of like family story, but I don't cheat money in my gameplay save, and I already had them spend pretty much all of their money buying the restaurant that I made because I also wasn't paying attention to how much it was costing. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to stop decorating it so much because it's like over 50,000 simoleons and my Sims didn't have like that much money. I'm sure they'll like make it back quickly when they sell the nectar because that is what's kind of like making them all their money right now. And like each nectar bottle sometimes sells for like 3,000 simoleons. So I'm just gonna have to wait. And I did make another sort of garden area at the front of the lot because you can't see it from, like, if I take a picture of the front of each build, you can't see any of the farmland in it. So it's like I could fit another tiny one off here and it will fill up some extra space too, so I don't have to put like so many more decorations in. And I realized that I messed up and I used the wrong stone pathway to lay these dirt paths out. And so I just went back to fix it very quickly. But now you can see which ones I used if you look closely and if you like go back and pause and stuff, because I didn't actually show it earlier because I did some of it off recording. One of the items that I used in the landscape that I really love that I feel like I never really pay attention to is that really like tiny tree that I have scattered around in the front of the houses. And that is just from Enchanted by Nature, but it's in like the live edits section. And I feel like I have scrolled past this so many times, I guess, because I've never actually really incorporated it, but it has really pretty yellow flowers on it. And so I placed that all around too because I thought that it would kind of look like bushes in a way, but it also brings in some of the autumn colors that I have in the trees around the place. And you can see the selection of items I picked out that I'm going to use to decorate the pathways. So you can see the ones that I'm working with. And because I didn't actually show me doing all of it, you can see what I picked out at first, and I really just eye dropped them, and I tried to line the pathways as much as I could reasonably do without just, like, not wanting to do it anymore. You will get to see some of it, though, because I do show me mapping out where some things are going to go, and I really loved using that, like, floral lawn decoration, and it, like, moves and spins and it just added a pop of purple, which I felt like helped to bring in some more Halloween colors into the landscaping. I have some fall leaves that I place around everywhere, and I was trying to be careful because I know that those fall leaves can get in the way and make certain areas not accessible. And so I was like, I figured some of the fairy houses I placed wouldn't actually work, but I did move the one that I was most concerned about over a little bit and fixed it so that Sims can use it. I know it's functional because when I did the intro, I had the Sim leap into that specific fairy home and it was like, okay, I didn't expect the Enchanted by Nature pieces that I use, like the ivy pieces that I use at every doorway. I didn't realize that was gonna make the entire build not functional, but it's a good thing I caught it and I was playtesting it because at one point I probably wouldn't have caught that and I would have uploaded it and then people would have been angry with me. And that specific thing, I would understand that people would be angry at me on the gallery because it was a lot. It was like every archway I had placed these on, and so the Sims just couldn't get through pretty much anything. And I was like, first started moving things around in the dining room because I was like, why isn't my Sim able to get anywhere? Thought it was the dining room, and it turned out to just be the ivy pieces I used throughout the entire build. But yeah, you could see that I took pretty much just some pumpkins. I placed little like clusters of them around. I put some candles next to them. And that was like, I guess, like the formula I did with like decorating every little tiny spot around the place. Not lining the pathways exactly, because in my head at first, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have pumpkins all over and it's gonna be like kind of like bordering every pathway. And this was my way of doing that, but on a smaller scale, so I didn't have to put too much. And it's a good thing I didn't do that because when I was looking at the, like, finished result of it, I was like, "Maybe I went overboard with everything." I couldn't tell. I feel like I went overboard with the candles that are, like, supposed to be, like, pretend floating candles, especially because if you don't know they're supposed to be, like, floating candles, you'll just be like, "Why'd this person upload a build with just a bunch of raised up candles? That makes no sense." And so, when I was looking at it, I felt like maybe it looked like that, but I feel like if people will understand that that's what it's at least meant to be, especially because it's like it looks intentional because they're all different heights. And I have the little effects next to each candle and it was when I was placing the rainbow fireflies that I realized that maybe I was putting too many of these candles everywhere. But then I thought if I didn't put enough of them, then it would also look like maybe it was like an afterthought and it was something like weird and kind of like looked off. And so I like couldn't find a balance between the two. But now I'm actually placing some of the pieces that make my build not functional at all. And it is like it's specifically the ivy that is lining the doorways. These ones are all fine, clearly. There are no doorways around, and I do switch out the ones that are on the doorways to just those vertical ones, as well as just like a horizontal one here and there. It has the same effect, but it just looks a little bit messier, which I feel like is okay, especially because this is supposed to feel overgrown and a little bit messy, and so it just had to look a little bit messier too then. It sucked at first because I think it looks so nice like this, but it really just didn't work, and I was imagining it sort of like those, like, blooming room kit curtains where it's, like, the ivy hanging down, but those ones are very bright green and would have, like, stood out way too much, and now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if the blooming room kit, like, ivy curtains, if you could put those on doorways too. I feel like I must have in the past, but I feel like I'm gaslighting myself now because I really thought that these Enchanted by Nature ones worked like that too, but, apparently I was wrong this whole time. I did also layer a bunch of ivy, which you could see as I get a little bit closer when I'm placing some columns down just to like make the corner stand out a bit more. I mixed some of I think they're vampire ones mixed with get together ones and also like the enchanted by nature pieces which I think just sticks out a little bit more and so it creates like a different layer of ivy of like all different sort of like depths. And I really love how the trees turned out. I really did need to add just like a little bit more vibrant colors in. And so, like, the base game yellow tree is what really helped, as well as putting in just a little bit more of the brighter red here and there. It really helps to balance out the landscape compared to some of like the darker reds or like some of the more muted oranges off to the back of the lot. Those ones really help to stand out and also makes it feel a lot more dense and feel like it is built into the woods instead of just like a tree is planted here and there. And now there is a giant leap and you could see the extra decorations I added. I put a bunch of fireflies. You can see some of the candles floating around. You can't see the rainbow fireflies, but those were sized down using tool to a very small amount where you can't see it anymore. And so those are all over the landscape too, which you would have seen in the intro of this anyway. So they're all there. I put some more pumpkins and some benches, probably some more lights around the place. I'm not sure, but I've been talking about the landscape and the exterior for 20 minutes now. So I'm just glad that I'm finally on the like interior for the build, and this is the first building that I do, and it is the smallest one. It is where they would sell the nectar and age it, and where they make it. So I made a little basement down here, and one thing I did keep is that I did put one of those enchanted by nature pieces that made the archways not functional. I kept that in front of all of the like, I don't even know what those are called. The wood things that you put the nectar in to age it. I don't know if it's still functional. I don't know if the Sims have to walk directly up to it in order to collect the stuff. But I kept it there and I thought that if it's not functional, at least that one is kind of like an easy, quick delete if that's the case. But I didn't have any nectar to like play test it, so it's just gonna be uploaded like that. There's also only one place to make nectar on this lot. I was gonna try and add more of those around, but I wanted it just in this one building, and that was the only spot I could really, like, squeeze it in, and now I'm realizing that I need to make sure that the sim could get in there because I did the same thing where I had an archway very close to an item, and the sim couldn't walk through it to use it, but that was an archway and a shower, so I don't know if that's different from that archway and the nectar making thing, so I'm just gonna double check that before I upload it. Maybe I'm overthinking every little thing now since I was so surprised that the other parts of my build wasn't functional. I feel like that archway's okay. I think the reason why it wasn't functional in the bathroom was because the shower was like directly next to it, which to me, I feel like the look of the shower and the archway it looks like it would have been functional, and so it's a little annoying that it's not, and I'll bring that up again when we're up to that part. It's, like, kind of all the way towards the end of the video, though, because I do the house last. And I'm about to do, I think, my favorite part of the build, which is sort of like the shop counter for this like nectar place. I changed this up a little bit because like you see that there's just the bottles over there, but I use the enchanted by nature like bed canopies and I make a cute little store like front to it, and I think it looks really nice. I also was putting some more of the Enchanted by Nature clutter items around because I wanted to like seem like the nectar is enchanted and made using magical ingredients. So there's random apothecary stuff down there to sort of like get that point across. And then that's when I also started adding some of these mushrooms in because I thought it looked really cute and whimsical. And I made a gnome be the one that sort of like takes care of the counter and is the one selling stuff. Thinking of like enchanted nectar now, it made me remember that in my gameplay save, it was like Thanksgiving and my Sims threw a big party and invited all their family over and they were serving some of the nectar that my fairy sim made, and it was just strawberry nectar is what I thought. And my sim, like one of my sims was walking around doing the like walk that the Sims in Strangerville do when they eat the bizarre fruit, but that's not bizarre fruit, and I was so confused. And then my other Sim had a moodlet of being like gassy, I guess. And this has never happened to me before. I don't think I've ever like served this nectar before. I don't know what happened. So if like anyone actually knows why that's a thing and if it's a specific nectar that you could craft that has that effect, but I was shocked. I paused and I Googled it, and it's apparently a bug. It's apparently not supposed to be a thing, and it just happens sometimes. So that's probably why I've never seen this occur. But you should have seen how terrified I was when I had seen my favorite sim walking around like that. I thought something bad was going to happen to him. And then he got stuck on the stairs like that too. He couldn't even make it up the stairs. I had to reset him. And so the entire thing was just terrifying. And if I guess it's just a bug, nothing actually happens with that. I thought it was sort of like a nectar and a bad side effect from it, but I just read briefly, so I didn't look like completely into it, but I was told that it's a bug, so I'm gonna assume that that's just not supposed to happen. It gives like a fizzy moodlet, and I don't think the nectar my sim made was even fizzy at all anyway, because like she was making different types, and I know that there was like a lemon fizz one that she was making too, but I don't think that's the one that they served that day because I just had strawberry nectar on the table. It was supposed to be a very cute family party. I set up like a makeshift table dining room thing in their entryway because they don't have a big dining room, and I invited all of their like, well, they don't have a lot of kids, but I invited like the sister and the daughter and their like nephew and stuff, and everyone came over with like their fiancés and their kids, so the grandkids were there for the first time too, and so it's supposed to be this like wonderful family event, and then it just turned into my sims walking around like they ate bizarre fruit in Strangerville. I didn't plan to show all the pictures but I rambled on for too long, and I figured I have so many pictures, I might as well share what happened with it. And I was texting my friend Molly because I was so scared because I literally had no idea what was going on. I thought my sim was about to die. That's what I thought was going to happen on like my beautiful like family reunion of a Thanksgiving. But I'm happy to share some updates on my Sims family anyway. You would have seen them in some other videos of mine of me like building their houses and stuff. I speed builds for pretty much like every house that I've made for those Sims, so you could see them every so often over there. But I'm back to playing them, and so that was like kind of like the key highlight of what has happened like last time I was playing it. But now I'm up to the second building for this lot, and it is where like the buffet tables are, where people could like sit down and drink nectar in here. It would be a great building for a wedding, which is why I need to find a place for a wedding arch somewhere on this lot because it really would be the perfect place. And I think that this like building back here, it's my favorite for the exterior. I think my favorite interior is the smaller one, but this one also feels so charming and cozy. And it's not like too big, but there are plenty of tables, and I was able to fit in two buffet tables as well, which I think is like all you really need. You probably noticed, but I also use pretty much the same flooring and wallpaper throughout every single build. I used the Enchanted by Nature flooring because it made it feel a little bit more natural and whimsical. And then I used it was from a kit. Is it like the Riviera kit? It was like one of those that were free at one point. I used the brick of that, or at least I think that's what it's from. I only just recently started using that one. So I'm like, I don't know if I actually have it correct, but it might be that one. And then the base game wood paneling that I really love. And then the accent of the lighter color is from Life and Death, which I don't really often use either, but I downloaded someone's build at one point when I was doing like a rags to riches and they were using that wall from Life and Death. And so I was like, I need to try and use that in a build at some point. And I felt like it fit in nicely with the other colors that I had picked out. And then to add some greenery in, I used the moss rugs from Enchanted by Nature as well as some of the other ones that have little flowers on it, which I think is from high school years, if I'm remembering correctly. And I just really like the look of it. But yeah, you could see that Enchanted by Nature ivy over the archway that has to be moved because it made it so you couldn't walk through the archway. But when I'm looking at it, I feel like you should be able to just walk through that with no problem. And I remembered that I wanted a bar up here, but there wasn't enough space. And for a moment, I thought that I should try to make the place bigger. But we do have a couple of bars that have just single tiles. I don't really use them that often because it's like not a very easy swap if you don't own a pack or if you haven't done the like there was this one reward challenge event that gave a like a single bar like a single tile bar, I should say. So I usually try not to use those, but I was like, I don't see a regular sized bar fitting in here at all. But if you don't have a single tile bar, I guess you could just put like a regular bar right outside of here, just like off in the grass. I do move some stuff around and I put picnic benches over there. So, like, technically, you could probably get a bar over there too. And another thing that you didn't see me record was I went around and I put a lot of like wall distress on each of the builds, but it's kind of tedious and boring. So I cut it out so that you didn't have to watch and I didn't have to ramble over that much of me placing wall distress on everything. And the towers for this build are pretty much just decorative, but I did make it so you can get up there, especially because I have that like interesting walkway at the top above the roof. And I was like, so I built that, but I'm not going to put anything in the tower. So I go up there after and I just put a little table up there. So it's almost like a private table that people could go and eat at. And I was gonna say it would have a pretty view, but it wouldn't because all the like windows up there are stained glass windows. So you wouldn't even really be able to look out and see anything either. But it's a cute little tower up there with just a single table over there. But you know what? Maybe someone just wants a private date up there. And it does look cozy. It has some warm lighting and a cute rug and some other ivy placed around. And I think the stained glass is really pretty too. And I did want outdoor seating in some areas, so I had to just move some stuff around so I could place some picnic tables around. I think I do it on some of the lower levels too, but if you don't have a single tile bar and you do want one in here, I would just recommend putting something out here. Even if you wanted to like build out that like deck a little bit and have it off to the side, you could even put maybe some sort of roofing over top of there if you really wanted to. That could have been a really cute idea to like actually like blend the two together because I kind of just threw the picnic tables off to the side and I just like called it a day. And we're almost up to the last building on this lot. I just had to remember to put some stairs around and I made sure that like the platform you could get up into the area with the buffet tables because I didn't have stairs there, but it is just one single tile raised up, so it should be fine. But I will just look at it again because I think I want to get some pictures of this at night just to show the fireflies because I haven't even seen them yet. I don't think they were visible in the intro video either. So I think it'll be nice to maybe like have some at the very end of the video. But this is the house, and technically, fairies don't really need a whole lot to survive. They can just like live in their fairy house and stuff, and they don't need to eat or anything. But I still wanted to make sure that there was a place to live on here just in case. And so I have a very tiny bedroom. I could only fit one single bed on this lot, but it is a very cute bedroom and it looks very warm in here. And I just use pretty much wood paneling throughout the entire build for this one. And I have a little stand-up dresser which wasn't functional at first. I had to slide some things over. I don't remember if that ivy next to the bed was in the way or not. I have a feeling it wasn't, but I did have to adjust some things just so that Sims could actually get in the room. I thought it was enough space, but there was not. And then another very tiny bathroom. I was going to try and fit a tub in, but I realized that I wouldn't have enough space to put anything else. And so I had to get rid of that. And you'll see what I did with the shower most likely right now. I don't know if I stopped and did something else, but I put a shower in this one and I like closed it off and I put an archway thinking that the Sims would be able to use that, but apparently they can't use that if an archway is right next to the shower. But to me, because there was no door on that shower, I thought it would be completely fine. So that will be one thing that is different. I just have to remove the arch in there. I don't remember if I put anything above it. Most likely not. And I'm glad that I was using a lot of these smaller ivy pieces as decoration because I didn't have to actually change any of them. And like I wanted to decorate most of the walls inside with just a bunch of plants to make it seem like the outdoors is growing on the inside too. And that's just like the vibe I was going for. And I kind of got lost in messing up a little bit with the other one, but I did use a lot of the vertical ones and the tiny ones. So I'm glad that I had a good mixture of them in there and I didn't just rely on one piece that made things not functional. In the downstairs area, I wanted a kitchen in the build just in case someone had a normal sim like living in here and they weren't in a cult. And so I just have a tiny kitchen that I decided to put over here because I have this weird space next to the stairs and I had no idea what that space could be besides like a closet or something. And I was like, that could just be a pantry. So I'm going to just have that be a pantry. And so the kitchen will have to be right there. And then towards the back is a small dining room. Off to the side is an office, and then I do a small foyer that you like walk into, and then there's an archway that splits off into the living room because I couldn't find a place where I would fit a couch and a TV with this being open. And so closing it off definitely helped to make me able to actually create a living room. I have that problem so often when I'm building where I can't seem to find a spot for a living room and I can't like reasonably have a couch and a TV because I don't have enough walls for it to not feel like the couch is like splitting the room in half in an odd way. So this was a nice fix for it and hopefully this sort of fix is possible in other builds where I run into that problem where the floor plan is a little bit strange and I can't figure out how to make it work. I also managed to fit in a half bathroom down here, which I had completely forgotten about. So there's at least another bathroom down here and just like a cute little entryway with not much in it besides a rug and like a mirror and some other fairy decorations. And yes, yeah, I was moving some of the stuff out from like in front of the fairy house because I knew that was not going to be functional. And so I was like, okay, let me quickly just move this over. And I really like the like wood bench that comes with I think that's like outdoor retreat, which was a long time ago. And I really like how it looks. So I used that and I used like a secret sanctuary kit TV because I couldn't like I wanted a TV in here, but I didn't know what TV to use. And I really only like the fake framed ones for a lot of my builds. So I used that one. That one that ivy that I just placed over the archway leading into the main the foyer and then to the main door. That's what I was trying to say. That is what caused all the issues. I did not understand why my sim couldn't get inside the house, like no matter what I was doing. And then I was like, oh, let me just test this. And it was exactly that. And I thought that the fireplace was maybe too close to other stuff because I couldn't get anything to work. But it kind of was too close. I had to move the table over. I might have deleted one of the chairs as well because it was one of the chairs that was a little bit too close to the fireplace. I had a lot of problems with this build and it being functional, which is usually not the case. Like most of my builds are just completely fine, never worry about it. But these ones are very tiny, and it didn't have to be this tiny because I had so much room on this lot. I think I just created the shapes that I liked, and I just moved on from that, and I decorated and landscaped around it, and then I just, like, felt like I couldn't really change too much because I had already put a bunch of outdoor stuff around the houses. And the last room I'm decorating is just a very simple office space. It just has a bookcase, a desk, a chair, and a computer, and that is it, except for, I guess, a little bit of decorations. But I also decided that I might as well just like share a video of me showing you the changes a little bit so that I could also show what the fireflies and the floating candles look like during gameplay. I feel like that makes a lot of sense for me to do. Okay, so I made it nighttime. The fireflies are out. There is a lot more of them than I had thought. You can't really tell too much with all the lights on, but the lot did look very dark without all the lights turned on. So I kind of waited for that too. I really like the smoke in the chimneys too in each of them. But if you look closer at the floating candles, there's the rainbow fireflies flying around. If this was Palia, they'd be floating up and down, but it's not. So we just have to pretend like that's the case. And I did decide to put in a wedding arch back here. I extended the pathway out and I deleted some stuff just to make some room so that it felt like there was an intention behind the wedding arch, because I was gonna like try and just throw it somewhere back here, but it felt like me just hiding it instead of like making it a whole event. And this really didn't have much going on back here, so I figured that would be the perfect spot for it. Now you could see the screenshots that I'd taken during the day. I didn't take too many. A lot of the spaces are pretty small, so it's hard to actually get pictures of them, but I took pictures of the important rooms, I think, and the ones I thought were the most pretty to see. And if you'd like to see other fairy builds for this collab, the hashtag is TS4 Pixie Hollow collab. I'll also have it in the description in case that is wrong. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all soon. Bye.